Thanks for joining the Dating with Katy podcast today. This is a big one. And guys, I don't want you to shy away from this. Please make sure you listen to the whole thing because ladies are going to like you more for this. Learning about your EQ. Now, I'm curious how many of you out there actually know what an EQ is. I mean, we all know what the IQ is, but today we're going to learn about the EQ and why it is the new key to great relationships. All right, you guys, thanks so much for joining me. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you send this to a friend. I'm telling you, we all have single friends that could use this. And do me a favor, look at the links below. Get into my network. It is a safe, secure network of singles. I am a matchmaker. I looked through that just this morning. I was perusing for women who are single that are 45 to 55. Sometimes, last night I looked for a gentleman in San Francisco who is looking to have children. So I'm always looking through our database to really see if you're an amazing person out there, if you have great photos, if you're interesting bio. If you don't know how to do those and write those well, either for your online profile or for mine, make sure you go back and listen to my podcast, season 1. Number 1 through 10 is all about the building blocks of getting ready to date. And then you've got number 11 through 25 is all about getting online, because I am a believer also in meeting your one online. So go back and listen to that. And then this season has gotten a little bit more spicy. I get a little bit more real. I share my own stories. If you didn't get a chance, listen to the last 2 podcasts, last 3. Podcast 32 is about communication and compromise. And communication is a huge part of what we're talking about today. And then also my last one is building trust. And I share a personal story of my current relationship and how trust is broken. And how do you bring that back? And how do you start with trust and keep trust going in a relationship so that you guys will get confident, be successful, and have some fun dating and be in great relationships. So let's get started today. So I'm talking about EQ. It's also known as EI. I like to say emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. Those are kind of what those acronyms mean. We've all heard of the IQ. There's plenty of people who have a great IQ, very smart, kind of brainy, but yet socially and emotionally, they might have a low EQ. Oftentimes we think of women having a stronger EQ and emotional strength to them. It is commonplace. We are encouraged to grow in our emotions and understanding them. If you are of my generation, which I'm going to leave that. You can guess what that is. If you are watching me on YouTube, you can guess that as well. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you might like my little thrifted Gucci sweater. It's kind of funky. It's a little old lady meets tiger. But so take a peek at that also on YouTube. This younger generation, there's so much new knowledge about emotions and love languages and attachment styles, where if you're from my generation, nobody talked about that. Our parents surely didn't talk about that. Understanding those things and meeting needs was not what made a marriage work. People just worked in a marriage to make it work. They just made marriages work. Nowadays, people have these expectations. And this is a great one. Having a partner who has a good EQ is so critical for growth and strength and just trust and everything else. So I guess this term was coined in 1995. So it's kind of a newer term. And I think, again, that's why this generation of mine is not quite used to it yet. I do find that a lot of my clients who are in therapy, usually a client that I have is almost always in therapy as well. They have a better EQ. They have a better understanding of their emotions, of how that works out in dating, triggers of why they behave the way they do. So I do encourage therapy. I am no therapist, but if you can afford therapy, I encourage it. The gentleman I'm dating right now, I said, you need to go to therapy. And here's why I really encourage men to be going to therapy is because you guys don't hash it out like we do with our girlfriends. Now, when I say hash it out, I just want to encourage the idea that if you are going to chat with a girlfriend about it, if you're going to chat with it, a problem through with somebody, make sure that that person is quality and they also believe and trust for you to do well in your next relationship or in the relationship you're in. Because if I'm having an issue with my boyfriend and I go chat with my girlfriend and she's bitter and she hates her relationship or she's single and mad at men, that's not going to help anything I hash out with her, because she's not going to be from a safe space for me to really do that in. So just make sure if you are going to hash it out, if you do have those friend groups, if you do have parents, elderly people who can help you with that, just make sure they're on your team. And then if you don't have those people, and that's common, or you don't want to share it inside your circle, then hire somebody, guys. I highly recommend you need a place to talk and process. So that is going to build your EQ from the start. And let's really talk about this EQ. So the online definition, I just Googled it, is when you can recognize, understand, and manage you and other people's emotions. Recognize, understand, manage your own and others' emotions. Now, I'm not going to worry about others' emotions right here, right now. If you have children, you're going to need to help manage theirs. If you're new into dating someone, you probably don't want to be managing their emotions. I know I've turned therapy Katy on my boyfriend sometimes. I feel like he should know how to do this. He should know how to feel right now. This is what he should be thinking. And I have to be very careful of that. So make sure you don't turn into therapy, add your own name right there, because that's not going to be good in the beginning of a dating relationship. As you grow and you begin to build, and he can hopefully see, or she can hopefully see, that you really put a lot of time into a growth mindset and that you want them to be there with you equally yoked, then that's fine. But make sure early on, ladies, and this is a ladies thing, I feel like, do not do this to men. You can encourage, you can share books, you can share something you're learning, but do not make them join you at the same bar yet. One of the things I like to think is that I want to be in a relationship that I can trust that my partner is doing the equal amount of work to be available emotionally for me as well. And for them to be able to move their issues and move through their issues and our issues in a safe and healthy and speedy way. So in my last podcast, I share a struggle that my boyfriend and I just had. And I felt like he was a little bit slow on moving through it. Now, for most women, that's just torture because our minds are running. And if you haven't read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, you will understand. So please go read that book. It'll increase your EQ. But I needed him to move quicker. It was 2 weeks worth of just muddling through this issue, which for me, that's maybe a week too much. I mean, even a whole week of muddling through an issue is difficult on my emotions. And I actually can't function well and process and do work throughout the day because my emotions are harnessed in like him moving forward with us. And I needed to know, there was a point where I thought, if this is how he's going to behave in this, maybe he can't handle bigger issues. And if that's the case, I don't know if I can do life with someone who can't look an issue in the eye and deal with it. Often you might have heard of something called stonewalling. That's when someone ignores you, doesn't want to talk about it, or just, sweeps it under the rug. Well, that does not work for Katy. And a lot of women need to work it through and move on quickly. And hey, even the Bible says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. And there's a reason for all of that. That's why moving through issues clearly and quickly is good for the soul and the spirit. So if you're in a relationship, if you're getting into a relationship, I'm going to encourage you that check about their EQ. Are you even equal with them? Is that something you could move through quickly? Maybe that's your first test. Maybe that's your first speed bump, is something happens and they don't want to talk about it. Well, we need to get down to the bottom of that. It's not even the issue. It's the way they handle the issue that's really going to be the secret to your guys' relationship success. And so recognizing, understanding, and managing their own emotions is their job. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can do this and how does it look in the early stages of dating. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on their willingness to learn and to grow as a person. You cannot control this, guys. You on your end can only be doing what you can do. You can be reading books. Right here I have it. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. His Needs, Her Needs. There's another great book called Love and Respect. There's so many great books. And I'm telling you, with Instagram, here's my one caveat with Instagram. There's a lot of statements that are put out on the feed and stories, and some of them are not good. Some of them are bitter, and they have an underlying diminishing viewpoint of relationships. I just watched a video, and this woman was like, do you know why I'm not dating? Because of men. And I thought, how sad is that? Thousands of likes on the video. Where are you traveling in 2023? You're traveling with me. You're traveling on the Dating with Katy single trips. Our first one will be in January to bring in the 2023 in warm weather, poolside, tequila shots, all included at the beautiful Breathless Resort. Bring your bestie, sign up, make it your Christmas gift to yourself, because in that middle of winter, you're going to be happy that you joined us. Space is limited. Then, if you want a more difficult trip, well, I say that as a pun, you're going to want to join us for 10 days in Tuscany, where we will be difficultly drinking wine, looking for truffles, sitting by the beaches, going through the small communities of Lucca and the churches and the bars, and everything is included in that trip as well. You will want to join me. Space is limited. Make sure you click, sign up, put your down payments, and I will see you in Cancun and in Italy. And people send it to me, and I'm like, this is why that woman is single. All of the women who liked that video, again, the video said, you know why I'm not dating? ... Men. It was a woman saying she's not dating because men are not quality or whatever their negative underlying. It was crude, and people can't see it. People think it's funny. They think it's cute. And so they like it and they give it a heart. That is some bad energy. That is some low EQ. If you can't see the negative root of that mocking and you're engaging with it, this is why you're single. This is why you've got a low EQ and you can't manage your own emotions. The second podcast I ever did, the first one is why I did a podcast, but the second one is my 4 foundations. And in there, I talk about you having to have a mental fortitude in dating. A lot of people get bitter. I get bitter Bobs all the time. I get bitter Bettys all the time, talking about how terrible. I can't believe you made this reel and you only brought up men. I'm like, well, if you watch the next reel, I bring up women. So it is crazy to me how negative people are because their EQ is not strong. They do not know how to manage their own emotions. They can't even recognize it. But are they willing to learn? And that's the bigger question. So self-regulation is huge, right? You need to have constructive behaviors and constructive daily processes. Self-awareness is another big one. Ownership of your behavior. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I ran late. That was my fault. I won't let it happen again. That's a big one in dating. You know what? I didn't text you back. That was my fault. Big one in dating. Being empathetic. This is huge. And women see this all the time. And another reason this podcast had to come out is my women clients are like, Katy, where is the empathetic men? Where are the high EQ men? They could be badass in their business, making millions. But when they come home, they bring that same mindset. You've got to change that mindset. These people who have a good EQ, They know how to manage their relationships. They know how to communicate with people. They know how to inspire. They're active listeners. Their body language is positive. They're empathetic, and they address conflict quickly because they care and want to move on. All of those things are so important. Now, let me share a few things of low EQ in somebody. So these are the red flags, right? When somebody lacks curiosity, they don't ask you a lot of questions, that would be a sign of low EQ. When someone doesn't have a growth mindset, if they're not into self-help in any way, no books, no, even Tony Robbins, he's all about it. So if they don't have that growth mindset, I would run. I would be very cautious of their behaviors, and I would watch them. If these people can't reflect on the things that they've done, if they can't share their feelings towards it, if they avoid that, again, that is a low EQ person. Sometimes you'll see this on dates. My client just had this happen to her, mansplaining. Now, my client is a venture capitalist. Her IQ is intense. She is exceptionally smart. Her EQ is also equally as smart. And she says, Katy, on this date, this guy just mansplained to me all night long everything that he did without ever asking me what I did, what I was about. He had no curiosity about her, and he was very selfish in that way. So, and people who say they don't need therapy, right there is an example of a low EQ. So, and I think a lot of this is sadly because dating has become very casual. It's, casual sex, disposable dating. There's no need to change yourself or improve because you can just move on to the next. And honestly, I was that person. Years and years and years ago, I would just say, yeah, I don't want to work on that. Next. So make sure that that is not you. And instead, here is my last list of some high EQ things that you can be seeing throughout your texting, throughout your first stages of dating. This person is going to be self-aware of their own emotions. They're going to be able to explain things, explain their feelings, talk about their kids in a positive, healthy way. They're going to talk about work and explain their feelings around work. Whatever it is that you're sharing, they should be able to feel some emotions around that. And sometimes, guys, you're going to see this, women who feel a lot have a very strong EQ. And look, at the end of the day, you love her because she's passionate, but because she's passionate, she also might get very sad. She might not be the perfect calm, but you've got to understand that at least she can move through her emotions and manage those. Now, if she goes cray-cray on either end, step away, run far away. Somebody who can validate their own feelings and then share them. Who can say, you know what, this is really what I was feeling. Again, that's the going back to why did I do what I did? Why do I feel the way I do? What could be the possible like underlying issues, and et cetera, et cetera. Somebody who's empathetic, and I'm going to give you a hint. When you are hearing a woman speak and she's sharing about her kids and she's sharing some emotions, guys, you have to do some noises, okay? You have to make the, yes, I get it, totally. Oh, I'd feel the same way. Those are empathy markers right there, and that is very sexy. So anybody with good boundaries, just last podcast, I share how to make trust boundaries. So important. I'm all about the boundaries. You guys know I'm all about the rules so that I can do a relationship well. And then anybody who has long-lasting friends and is close to their family, that is a great sign that they value emotional connection, and that is important to them. So you guys, so many ways that you can be doing relationships better, but even throughout the beginning stages of your dating, let's make sure that you're looking for that kind of person. And again, go back and listen to my last few podcasts. I talk about chemistry and how dangerous that is to think that on your first date, if you don't have chemistry, they're not worthy. Go back and listen to that. That's like podcast 33. I want you to be in successful relationships after you start dating. So let's make sure that you guys are getting confident, feeling successful, and having some fun dating, and then getting in great relationships. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure you tune in next time.